Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Katelynn Kolterman. Katelynn, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Thank you, Jon. Glad to be here.
Katelynn is one of our project managers, and among other things that she helps lead our company through, mindfulness in the workplace is a topic, Katelynn, that you're very passionate about. And you spend a lot of energy benefiting our team and, educating our team around mental wellness, physical wellness, holistic well-being, all sorts of things like that. And so I want to talk today with you about creating mindfulness in the workplace. I think with how easy it is to be distracted nowadays, a lot more people are talking about how to be more mindful, whether it's in their work life, in the workplace, which is what we're talking about here, but also in their personal life. So, Katelynn, my first question to you is, why is it important to actually create mindfulness in the workplace?
Yes, thank you, Jon. Well, mindfulness definitely is one of my passions. And just like you said, I think it is becoming much more of a well-known concept, especially in the workplace. But mindfulness is really important in the workplace specifically, because it really gives your employees that permission and space to slow down and to think and to be present. It's really that concept of slowing down to speed up. So as I said, mindfulness is becoming a lot more popular, but I'm not sure if everyone really understands what it is. I've heard some people refer to mindfulness as more of mindlessness. I think that comes from a lot of meditations. They tell you to empty your mind, to not let any thoughts in, to clear your mind. But mindfulness really is what it says. It's to be mindful and fully present and aware in the present moment. And especially not necessarily trying to change anything. That's the big thing, is that we're always trying to change things, or we're always thinking about the past or thinking about what could be or what could have been. It's very easy to get stuck in the past, and frankly, very unhealthy. Almost as unhealthy as, living in the future can be almost as unhealthy. When we think about the future and we live in a fantasy in the future and we never do anything about it. What we want to do is to shape the future mindfully and meaningfully in the present moment by intentionally taking that time in the present moment to imagine what we want the future to be, to create those goals and to work on them fully and present and meaningfully in the present moment.
So, can I add one thing real quick? Not to cut you off too much, but I love this topic so much. And you said two words that are really interesting. One is permission, right? It's almost like we need permission to be, the second word, present, where when we think about maybe how we've experienced success in the past, maybe we've experienced success at work because we've juggled 1,000 things. We've always thought about the future. We learn from the past. But I think a lot of people are experiencing that with how fast everything is moving, that it's unsustainable for our mind to be in full gear all the time around trying to prevent problems that aren't even currently existing, or being too distracted by the future or too distracted by the past. And there's something powerful of being present. And when I read thoughts from some of the biggest leaders in the world, right, I think about CEOs of huge companies that we know all about, is they talk about being present, right? It's really amazing how they shape their days to really prioritize where they give their attention and energy and where they don't. And I think that's what you're highlighting really well. So not to interrupt you, but I just wanted to add that in because I think it's just really powerful. So you were diving into the tips, right? Around like, hey, here's some strategies, or here's some ways we can be more mindful in the workplace. So feel free to go on or to move into the tips or strategies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely agree with what you say. The present moment can be incredibly powerful, especially when we um, look at it intentionally and really focus on our priorities and what we want to get out of the present moment. But with mindfulness techniques, I would invite you. That's a thing that we say a lot in mindfulness exercises. It's I would invite you. It's not you should do something or you need to be this. It's I would invite you if this is what's best for you to kind of educate yourself, lead by example, learn about different mindfulness techniques and what works for you, and really try to incorporate these concepts of mindfulness into company culture. So there's many different things you can do, many different mindfulness techniques. I think the most well-known one would be meditation. Meditation absolutely changes the brain. It promotes happiness. It can improve your focus, your cognitive ability, and it's so easy. It doesn't have to be a big production. You don't need anything. All you need to do is just close your eyes and really live in the present moment with no distractions, even just for 5 minutes. I think another thing we really struggle with is mindful eating, especially at work. I know a lot of us probably just grab something for lunch and eat it at our desk, maybe have a fork in one hand and typing an email with the other hand. So unhealthy. Mindful eating really helps to kind of improve not only your physical health, but your mental health as well, and really helps you to cultivate those healthy habits and to slow down. It's really the foundation for combating overeating or binge eating or unhealthy eating in general. And it can even help you to identify your own reactions and sensitivities to different types of food. So that's one of my favorite techniques and probably one of the ones that I struggle with the most. Another technique that's really, really helpful in the workplace would be mindful journaling. It's a very, very effective way to start and end your day. Even just writing down the goals and intentions that you have for the day, writing down anything that you notice in your body or your mind that you may be experiencing specifically that could affect your day negatively or positively. And it can really help you to kind of pay attention to your goals and your progress throughout the day. Lastly, one of my favorite techniques would be breath work, just because it's so easy and it's so overlooked. I don't think people realize how important breathing is. I mean, we do it all the time. Just because we do it naturally doesn't mean it isn't something that we should pay attention to. The breath is actually the only part of the nervous system that we can physically choose to control. Everything else is just automatic, but we can change the breath at any time and use it to slow our nervous system down. So it's just a very, very easy and subtle technique just to whip out whenever you feel overwhelmed or anxious at work.
That's great, Caitlin. So I think you highlighted four things: meditation, mindful eating, mindful journaling, and breath work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Those four items. Okay. Um, what I love about these is you can do all of these in your office or in
Mhm.
your room. Like, you don't need a gym or you don't need a space outside of where you already are in order to do these things. I want to go back to the meditation real quick. You said close your eyes and just kind of be in the present with no distractions. And then you said for, even just 5 minutes, as almost as if that was like a really short amount of time. But when I hear doing that for 5 minutes, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's when 5 minutes feels like an hour, I'm sure, when you're starting to try and do this. So some thoughts around that, Caitlin, of when you say meditation, because, I think if our listeners are like me, when you hear meditation, you may think of like someone who does this every day. Maybe they're wearing a robe, they're in some sort of space that's separate from their office, and it sounds very like I'll never be able to get there or do that. So are you talking about just as you're sitting in front of your computer or maybe in your office, really just closing your eyes, maybe focus on your breathing and just trying to clear your mind, or would you add any tips around that?
Yeah, definitely. There's really no wrong way to do it. I mean, you can just close your eyes for a minute during one of your breaks. You don't have to clear your mind. You can even just sit there and just observe what thoughts are coming into your mind, that's actually a really great way to see, what's top of mind for me today, what's bothering me, what are my priorities, and even incorporating that mindful journaling to really get those thoughts down, and get them out of your mind and onto the paper. But yeah, like I said, there's really no wrong way to do it. You can just close your eyes for however long you have. There are tons of free guided meditations on YouTube or any streaming platforms, or really just taking a moment, looking around, seeing if there's anything in the room that you haven't noticed before can actually be a really great way to ground yourself in the present moment.
I think this is excellent advice, Katelynn. And, when you think about what we do every day we get paid to solve problems, right? For those listening, you get paid to solve problems. And sometimes they're really complicated problems. I mean, oftentimes they're really complicated problems and they're nuanced problems. And what you're suggesting here, Katelynn, makes a lot of sense, that we need to take care of our mental well-being, emotional well-being, physical well-being through mindfulness. That I would say there are, for those that are always focused on performance or always focused on doing what's best for your clients. I think as you increase in mindfulness, that's only a good thing for your clients and a good thing for your team, because you're going to be sharper and more, probably more energized. So I'm kind of getting into, Katelynn, for yourself, as you have done these things, have you seen positive results in your life, or maybe that you wouldn't mind sharing, or maybe you've talked to our team about this, or maybe other people in the profession and they're doing this and you've seen some positive results from them? Any positive results you could share?
Absolutely. For myself personally, meditation has really been just a lifesaver for me. Just to take some time and just realize, thinking about the bigger picture, everything is not just my own little thoughts and just the production of thoughts from my brain. It really helps you to kind of be an observer of yourself and your thoughts. And it really helps with discipline, because you realize that thoughts are products of the brain, they are not facts. And it helps you to be a non-judgmental observer of what your brain is producing so that you can respond in a controlled way instead of just impulsively reacting to your thoughts. Beyond that, following Mental Health Month in May, BCI, we actually started, doing the mindfulness sessions, bi-weekly mindfulness sessions over these different mindfulness techniques, completely optional, where any of my coworkers can come and I'll lead a mindfulness session over different techniques. For example, we just did one over mindful eating the other day. And I think it really just helps to help ground everyone and to bring everyone back to these ideas of mindfulness and really focusing on yourself and your mental health and your mental well-being, and just to take a moment to be present and not only to learn these techniques, but to learn them together is a really powerful thing.
Awesome. I think that's great. So one question we always ask on this podcast, and this may be a really easy answer, here, but we always like to look outside the profession and say, okay, based on the topic we're discussing here, how is this relevant to outside the profession? Is it just as relevant as inside the profession? Is there no difference between whether you're in the profession or not as it relates to this topic, or are there unique perspectives about being in our profession as it relates to the topic? So Katelynn, I want to ask you, as you think about mindfulness in the workplace, how is this relevant to outside the profession? Is it any different being in the profession or outside the profession as it relates to this topic?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I can say that I think these techniques would be incredibly beneficial during busy season specifically, but for any profession, really, not even in a profession, just in your personal life, mindfulness can really help you to cultivate that self-discipline, that motivation, that clarity on what you want out of your life. It can help you in the workplace, or it can help you even personally and at home with your family.
Well, I think you highlighted something really, really important, is tax season being a season of compression. That you're exactly right. These approaches are relevant throughout the entire year in any context that you're operating. But I think there is a kind of a unique lens of our profession where people are gearing up for tax season. I was just talking with a firm the other day, and they're hosting trainings and different types of things as they're gearing up for tax season. And I know one thing that's not on their training program is mindfulness in the workplace. And that probably should be, right? How do we help our team be mindful going into busy season? And so I think that's a good thought. So as we close out our conversation here, Katelynn, what what's your one recommendation to our listeners if they left this podcast and maybe only did one thing to be more mindful? Would you have kind of a low-hanging fruit opportunity for them that you think they should do?
Yeah, definitely. One easy step that you can take today or right now as you're listening is just to take a mindful moment and check in with yourself, see how your body is feeling, maybe even do that short meditation for 1 minute. But just take a mindful moment today and just kind of reflect and see how you feel different than the days when you don't take that mindful moment.
Excellent advice. That's great. All right. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, Katelynn, and ask any questions or anything like that around this topic, what's the best way that they contact you?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn, Katelynn Kolterman, or I'm also on Instagram. My username is also Katelynn Kolterman with no space.
Awesome. And they can also find you on our website. They can find your email address there as well. So 3 good resources to find you. Well, Katelynn, as always, it's really great having you on the podcast. For our listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. And while we do like to switch up the topics, we believe every single one of those topics are really important to your firm and or your team. And so please go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much. Thanks, Katelynn.